What is the scariest, creepiest thing that has happened to you when you were home alone? It was raining pretty hard one night and I was about to go to bed. Our dog decided to start going nuts, barking at the corner of the family room. We had just moved in, so there wasn't anything in there, but she just kept constantly barking at nothing. I tried to pull her away, but she wasn't having any of it. She started showing her teeth and snarling, which she never does. I figured there must be an animal outside, so I turned on the deck lights, deck is off the family room, and peer outside. Nope, nothing. I wasn't about to go outside because of the rain and I didn't see anything anyway. So I dragged the dog to the bedroom, but she just won't shut up. Finally decide to get my shoes and umbrella on and walk around the house. Found one of my neighbors curled up along the side of the deck trying to protect himself from the rain. He's disabled and a little slow. He usually goes out for walks in the neighborhood. He got caught in the rain and couldn't find his house. If my dog hadn't gone nuts, he might have been out there all night and who knows what could have happened. I was home alone one night in middle school. I was in my room, which is right above our kitchen, watching TV. I had already shut all of the lights off downstairs cause I was eventually going to fall asleep and didn't want to get yelled at for leaving the lights on. So I am laying in my bed. The family dog, a Chesapeake Bay Retriever, was lying next to me when I hear cabinet doors open and shut. It wasn't like they all opened at once and then shut, but more like one after another for a few seconds. I freeze and look at the dog, who at this point was an old lady, who perked up and looked at me. I peek out my window that overlooks our driveway and didn't see anything. Now I didn't think anyone was in the house because while the dog was lazy AF, she was a great guard dog and she would have responded if the door opened or whatever. So after a few seconds the dog gets up and starts moving towards the stairs, and I decide to follow, fully confident that if anyone was down there she would scare them. I grab my softball bat and my cell phone and follow her downstairs. As we come downstairs I notice the lights are on in the kitchen and I dial 911 because I know I shut the lights off prior to going upstairs. When we get in the kitchen all the cabinet doors were open, which was obviously not how I left it. That's when I noticed that the door was still locked, so I thought whatever did this was still in the house. So I quickly ran upstairs to my parents' closet and called my parents and told them what's up. They came home and obviously didn't find anyone or any trace of anyone being in the house. We still do not know why the light was on and cabinet doors were open, but we had some other paranormal-like occurrence happen around that time, so we chalked it up to the household ghost. One night when I was about 12 or 13, my parents were gone for a while and I was just staying up really late, past midnight, on my desktop computer waiting for them to come home. Like most people, I had been told a million times not to talk to strangers on the internet, but about half my friends list on MSN were people I had never met before, so I was just chatting with a bunch of them. Out of nowhere, one of my online friends had told me exactly what I had been doing the past hour or two. E.g., what I was eating, drinking, playing with, when I had gotten up last. Things I hadn't mentioned in chat. I instantly got a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. My desktop was set up in front of a big window, so as far as I knew, this person I had been talking to, that was supposed to live in a different country than me, had found my address and been watching me through the window. Turns out, he had somehow hacked into my webcam. I always left it plugged in even though I had been warned not to when I wasn't using it, and had been frequently watching me through it whenever he wanted. It's been 10 years and I still have all the cameras on my devices covered in thick duct tape. Someone scoped out my apartment, charged up my stairs and started banging on the door demanding I open it and talk to her. This chick would not give me a name or what she wanted. Finally threatened to call the cops, and that's when she runs back down my stairs. Dude, let me in, I'm a fairy. My husband went out of town for his first work trip following the birth of our first child, so it was me, my infant daughter, and dog at home, and I am counting it as alone, considering I was the only one awake, and verbal, in the house at the time. I'd just put my daughter down for bed and was in the kitchen cleaning up when I suddenly heard our garage door open, something that should not be possible with my husband, and second of two garage door openers, literally in another state. I raced to lock the door coming into the house from the garage and crouched next to it for at least 3 minutes, phone out and dialed to 911, trying to listen for any sounds of intrusion before cracking the door open just enough to reach my arm through and close the garage again. I did not sleep super well that night, though some of that can be blamed on the nightmare that was my baby's sleep schedule at the time, and had at least 3 more mysterious garage openings overnight in the following week. It turns out that when I'd paired a spare garage door opener the day prior, one of our neighbors was arriving home and just so happened to use their opener at the exact moment I pressed the link button in our garage. It took me an absurd amount of time to make the connection because they honestly don't go in and out of their house very frequently. In any case, that first instance had me acting out parts of a home intrusion scene in a horror movie. 2 years ago, I get home from my last lecture from university, before the start of Christmas break. My family had gone to Scotland for the weekend. I was all alone at home for the weekend. Once I arrived at home, I showered and was getting food ready. After eating, I turned on my PS4, plugged my headset and began playing. However, an hour later, I hear loud thudding from upstairs floor. Rather than being brave and checking upstairs, I ran to close and lock the living room doors to prevent a robber from entering. I hurried to my phone and called the police, who arrived quickly and began searching. After 20 minutes of searching, they found that someone had broken into my house, through my bedroom window. Luckily, no valuables had been taken. I did, however, get a 2-hour lecture from my parents on what precautions to take when home alone. My sister and I were home alone and we heard noises outside, so we looked out the back door and there's a guy in a ski mask on our back porch going through some stuff. We were hiding and watching him. He looked in through the door window and started knocking. We freaked out and called our dad. It was one of his friends. He plows snow with picking up a snow blower, but it was absolutely terrifying before we realized. I was watching a scary movie with my wife when I hear a scratching noise in the wall behind me. I got WTF was that there was a noise in the wall. Wife doesn't believe me. I hear it several more times and think I am going insane, and I am legit starting to freak out. Then she finally hears it too. That's when I learned mice can fall down inside the walls because the top part of the wall in the attic isn't covered. I was home alone after a dinner with my girlfriend. Around 3 a.m. I hear a very loud bang. My dog and I get out of bed to scope it out, hoping to find the reason for the noise. We searched for 15 to 20 minutes and could not find anything. We go back to bed, and not 10 minutes later, bang. This time I am shaking. It sounded like it was coming from the same spot. I spent the rest of night awake, not wanting to move. Found out the next day, girlfriend put 2 sparkling waters in the freezer to cool them down, forgot about them, left the house and never told me about them. They exploded. That kept me up all night. Wasn't home alone, but my mom was asleep. I was about 8 and I was taking the trash outside after the sun went down, when a hand reached from the side of our back deck and grabbed my leg trying to yank me. I screamed very loud and they let go and I ran inside. Lived in a condo. In the middle of the night, I woke up to hear someone rattling my front doorknob. No one had keys to my condo except me. Then, the door opened up and I heard someone walking in. I was 100% sure I was being robbed. Fight or flight kicked in and I flew out of bed and ran toward the front door screaming, "Get out of here," which came out as complete gibberish as I had been sound asleep about 30 seconds prior and now had crazy adrenaline pumping through my veins. I was literally jumping around in my underwear screaming and waving my arms when it dawned on me that the 2 guys standing at my front door looked more scared than I have ever seen anyone. One of the guys held out some keys, his hands were visibly shaking, and said something to the effect of his friend had given him the keys to his place and said he could stay there while he was out of town. Turns out the friend lived directly above me and these guys went to the wrong floor. The floors were not numbered and neither were the condo units by mistake. They didn't know they were at the wrong door and that the keys were the same. I was able to get into his unit with my keys and they could open up my door with their keys. Needless to say, I was standing outside the hardware store the next day waiting for them to open so I could buy a new lock for my door. Can't wait to find the scariest encounter story. The very first time I was home alone. I'm watching TV and there's a huge crash bang noise behind me in the kitchen. I didn't look or think, I bolted out the front door and sat on the steps outside, crying, until my folks returned like 10 minutes later. Turns out my mom's bread machine had been kneading the dough and vibrated itself off the counter. Really, the most amazing thing is that the machine wasn't damaged. I have that same bread machine today and it makes delicious fresh bread. Lived in a second-floor apartment my junior year of college, and to save money I opened my balcony doors and windows and kept my AC off. This particular week my 75-pound dog W.A. terrifying bark was staying with my boyfriend and I forgot to lock my door. Terrible coincidence. Anyways, I woke up in the middle of the night naked in my bed to a man standing in my bedroom. Had no clue what to do. Couldn't jump up BC naked, so instinctively just said, "Yo, WTF?" His response was, "I came up to shut your doors and windows," at which point I noticed all were shut. Then he left and I locked my door. Cried. One of the first nights I was home alone with my brother. I was probably 13 or so. Parents went to a concert and left me in charge of my little brother. Just after he goes to bed there are banging at the door. I'm terrified. I stay quiet and sneak to the window. It was a neighbor from up the road. We weren't friends, he's never been in my house before, I'm wondering why the f*** he wants to come in now. I stood on the other side of the door and said, my parents aren't home, I can't open the door, stupid, I know, never let strangers know there are no adults around. He yells back, it's getting dark and I just wanted to let you know that your garage door is wide open. I felt like a schmuck, but I'm still alive. So was out of town on business, so I treated myself and ordered in from my favorite restaurant. Delivery guy arrived, and insisted he had to come into my place to deliver the food and take payment. I had to loudly refuse this multiple times, in the hopes a neighbor would hear me, and he kept insisting. Finally got him to process my payment in the hallway, but he was muttering under his breath the whole time. Scared the hell out of me, I double-locked the door when he left and sat up all night feeling uneasy. Wish I had reported him to the restaurant, but I was too shaken to think about it.